think they're all thrilled. I'm thrilled. Are you all thrilled?
Then I think it's time. Let's count down together from 5. Is everyone ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tron Light Cycle Run has officially opened at the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. While there's been positive remarks in the initial reviews for the ride, it seems that there are more criticisms than there are compliments. People have said the restraints are uncomfortable, that the ride is too short, and that it only looks good at night. In regards to that last point, it does look stunning at night, but Tron's glowing canopy doesn't match architecturally with the rest of Tomorrowland. Also, Tron isn't a very popular Disney property or sci-fi franchise. While Tron has its fans, they're few and far between. This only scratches the surface of the complaints I've heard, with other grievances including the flawed attempt to copy Velocicoaster's locker system, test vehicles outside the ride that make it unclear if you'll actually fit, limited amounts of accessible seating for guests with disabilities, inconsistency on rules about filming the ride, a lack of care put into some elements of the outdoor queue, and the list goes on and on. When looking at all the ride's nitpicks, it makes me ask the question, was Tron Light Cycle Run a mistake? I really hope it wasn't a mistake, but I want to find out for sure. To do that, we'll have to take a look at everything that led up to this moment. In a very general sense, it starts with the first Tron movie being released in 1982. Then, in 2010, Tron Legacy was released. 6 years later, Tron Light Cycle Run first opened in Shanghai Disneyland. 1 year after, at D23 Expo, it was announced that Shanghai's ride would be duplicated in Disney World. Finally, 6 years later, that brings us back to today, with Tron being open at Magic Kingdom. There's 4 decades of Tron history, and that's plenty of time to find plenty of reasons why this ride was not a mistake. So, let's begin with what started it all, Tron. Tron tells the story of Kevin Flynn, a programmer whose games have been plagiarized by the corporation Encom. An experimental laser digitizes Flynn and uploads him to the Encom mainframe cyberspace, also known as the Grid. In the Grid, programs are living entities that are under the tyrannical rule of the Master Control Program, or MCP. Flynn teams up with Tron, a security program that fights for the user, to find proof his games were stolen. After some deadly gladiatorial-style games, like Light Cycle Duels, and other wacky sci-fi hijinks in the Grid, Tron and Flynn eventually defeat the MCP. Flynn gets back to the real world, he has proof his games were plagiarized, and he becomes CEO of Encom. Yay, fun movie! While Tron's plot wasn't especially groundbreaking or exciting, the visuals undeniably were. Although they may seem outdated by today's standards, they paved the way for computer-generated animation and film. I'd love to talk more about the specific CGI advancements made, but what we need to focus on is proof that Tron is popular and deserves to be in the theme parks. The budget for the film was $17 million, and it made $50 million at the box office. But apparently, despite the gross in merchandise sales, it was seen as a financial disappointment. Also, critics weren't the biggest fan of the story either. Variety said, Tron is loaded with visual delights, but falls way short of the mark in story and viewer involvement. The Motion Picture Academy also refused to nominate Tron for its special effects because, as the director Steven Leisberger puts it, the Academy thought we cheated by using computers. Today, Tron sits with a 6.7 on IMDb and has a 69% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. None of this is particularly ideal for our argument, but this is just the beginning. We still have over 40 years to go. In 1982, Bally Midway manufactured and distributed the coin-operated arcade video game, Tron. It was a combination of the various games seen in the movie, including the Light Cycle game. While in the real world it makes sense to call the game Tron, for both recognizability and promotion, we know that in the movie, Tron is a program, a character, not the name of the game. It's a common misconception, and it's likely because of this arcade game, as well as subsequent arcade and at-home games, that people conflate the two. But I digress. These games likely helped grow the fanbase of Tron, but I can't find any specific proof that indicates such. What we really need is some way to prove that Tron should be put into the Disney theme parks. And that begs the question, was Tron ever put into the theme parks before? It turns out, yes. In 1982, a Tron section was added to the People Mover at Disneyland, and the ride was advertised as the People Mover through the world of Tron. However, this name is completely misleading, as there was only one very short, very low-effort, temporary sequence in the 12-minute long attraction. If Disney didn't see Tron as a box office and critical disappointment, there's a chance it could have seen some more theme park action. But some mediocre projections in the People Mover is all Tron got for a long time. There was talk to turn part of Communicore and Epcot into the Grid, but it never happened, despite what this coming soon sign may tell you. And unfortunately, not much else happens with Tron for the next nearly 3 decades. Some additional games were released, as well as some comic books exploring the lore of the Grid. But most of these comic books are no longer canon, and that's mainly due to the next big part of Tron's history, its sequel. Tron Legacy picks up 28 years after the events of the first film, mirroring the time that actually passed between the film's releases. It follows Sam Flynn, the son of Kevin Flynn. Kevin has been missing for 20 years, but Sam believes he's still out there. Sam finds a secret room in his father's arcade, wherein he is digitized into the grid. He, like his father, is forced to compete in the Light Cycle game, battling against Clue, the codified likeness utility of Kevin Flynn. Or, in other oversimplified words, Clue is an evil clone of his dad. Sam is rescued by Cora, who helps him escape and meet his real, not evil father. His dad has been stuck in the grid because of Clue, but now, with Sam, they might just be able to escape. Wacky sci-fi hijinks in the grid ensue, and in the end, Kevin Flynn sacrifices himself to destroy both Clue and the entire grid. Sam and Cora escape back to the real world, and Sam takes control of Encom. Yay, fun movie! Tron Legacy visually reinvented the grid, making the world far more cyberpunk, while keeping the iconic designs of vehicles like light cycles essentially unchanged. But there's one big retcon that really annoys me, and I want to see if you can spot it. Take a listen.
Good evening. Our lead story, Encom CEO and video game icon Kevin Flynn, has disappeared. He was best known for designing Tron and Space Paranoids, the two best-selling video games in history.
One more time, listen to what the news reporter says.
He was best known for designing Tron and Space Paranoids, the two best-selling video games in history.
Yeah, if you heard correctly, apparently the game is called Tron now, even though that doesn't make any sense. Why would Flynn name a game after a program when the program has nothing to do with the game? Also, he made these games before he knew Tron. That's the whole point of the movie, is that he uses Tron to help improve Encom plagiarize the games. He can't be the name of the game! It might seem like I'm nitpicking on something very minor, and in all honesty, I am. But I have a point to make. While Tron Legacy takes the events of Tron and tells a story in that world, it feels so separate from the original film. In its look, tone, soundtrack, and even small details like the game being called the wrong name, it makes it hard for the two films to coexist in this franchise. But this could be seen as a good thing. The original Tron was seen as a disappointment, but with a fresh start and proper promotion, Tron Legacy could serve as a good reason to reintroduce the grid to the theme parks. So, how was it received? The budget for Tron Legacy was $170 million, and the film grossed $400 million at the box office. That's 10 times the budget of the original Tron, but only 8 times the revenue. As for critical reception, Tron Legacy is 0.1 better than Tron according to IMDb, but 18% worse according to Rotten Tomatoes. Most critics and audiences love the new visual effects, but some were upset with how the original movie's colorful punch had been toned down and changed up. Most found the movie storyline cliché and poorly written, but there are some avid fans of the direction the movie took. The only thing nearly everyone agreed was great about Tron Legacy was its score. Daft Punk composed the soundtrack, and it's what you've been listening to throughout this video. There was an opportunity for Tron Legacy to reignite the Tron hype and make the franchise a big sci-fi hit, but it missed the mark, and Tron remains a relatively unpraised and unremembered sci-fi franchise. But that's not satisfying, and it doesn't help us justify why Tron Light Cycle Run was built. There's got to be something else related to the Tron franchise that makes this make sense. Almost all the rides built in Disney World within the past decade have been based on very popular intellectual properties, or IPs. These include, but aren't limited to, Avatar, Star Wars, and Marvel. I tried seeing if there was any number or statistic that made Tron look like an IP of equal value to these. Alas, in my search for proof Disney held the Tron franchise in high regard, what I found was the exact opposite, and from a part of the franchise I didn't even know existed. Tron Uprising was an animated TV show that aired on Disney XD from May 18th, 2012 to January 28th, 2013. Those few 8 months meant only one season and just 19 episodes. The show takes place in between Tron and Tron Legacy and fills in some gaps in the lore. This is a piece of Tron media I'm yet to consume, though I'm curious to check it out for a couple of reasons. It has a stacked cast, a great animation style, and it could possibly answer why the name of the game Light Cycle was changed to Tron, though I doubt it. Tron Uprising has the highest ratings out of all Tron media, with an 8.1 on IMDb, 1.4 above the original Tron 6.7. It also got a Primetime Emmy Award for art direction, and 2 Annie Awards for character and production design. This show seems awesome, so why'd it end before it even had a year on air? It turns out, Disney didn't see the show's potential, and as a result, audiences didn't see the show at all. Disney XD scheduled the show to broadcast at midnight, Sunday PM, Monday AM, and there was no rebroadcasting. Most parents, or at least my own, would never have let me stay up until midnight on a school night to watch a Tron cartoon. Tron Uprising was set up to fail with its horrendous time slot, regardless of how good or bad the show itself was. In January of 2013, it was confirmed the show wouldn't be receiving a second season, and that was that. It had a second life on Netflix from May of 2013 to May of 2014, and it now has a third life on Disney Plus, where it hopefully won't be going anywhere. So, how did we go from Tron being unpopular, ignored, and essentially hidden by Disney to it being the IP for a brand new ride? The only other notable Tron thing yet to be mentioned was Electronica, an interactive nighttime dance party in California Adventure that opened just a few months before Tron Legacy. Located in the never fully utilized space near the Monsters Inc. ride, it had a mock-up of the end-of-the-line club, and a recreation of Flynn's arcade where guests could play classic 80s video games. While this was higher effort than the People Mover hallway, it still was just temporary, lasting a little over a year. And again, this was just to promote Tron Legacy. It doesn't give us any proof that Disney cared about Tron after the way they treated Tron Uprising. So, with over 30 years of Tron history covered, we have to hope that the proof this wasn't a mistake lies in the remaining decade, and possibly at Shanghai Disneyland. Oh, also in 2010 the monorail had Tron on it too. Yeah, Tronorail! Woo! During the construction of Shanghai Disneyland, Bob Iger established a guideline for the park's development: authentically Disney and distinctly Chinese. In other words, while the park should preserve its Disney essence, it also needed to incorporate elements of Chinese culture to provide a unique experience. This approach was particularly emphasized for Tomorrowland, as Imagineers feared that the traditional American concept and design of the land would not resonate with Shanghai locals. To better fit the city that already looked like a sci-fi future, the retrofuturistic look of Tomorrowland needed to change. But, in taking this new direction, it meant classic Tomorrowland rides like Space Mountain would not be making an appearance in Shanghai. The land would need a new coaster, and it would take the form of Tron Light Cycle Run. So there we go, problem solved! The ride wasn't a mistake because it helped make Shanghai Disneyland authentically Disney and distinctly Chinese. One problem though, that doesn't make any sense at all. We've proved that Tron isn't a super popular IP, and one that Disney views as a disappointment. So to call Tron authentically Disney feels like a stretch. What's even more of a stretch, no, just downright untrue, is that Tron is distinctly Chinese. The franchise takes place in America, was filmed partially in Canada, but undeniably has nothing Chinese about it. So, unfortunately, Tron Light Cycle Run could still be a mistake for Disney. In order to disprove that idea, we have to figure out why Tron was considered fitting for this motto and vision of the land, especially when there were tons of other ways to make it distinctly Chinese, as well as other Disney sci-fi properties that were far more popular. When it comes to making a distinctly Chinese version of Space Mountain, a great place to look for inspiration is Disneyland Paris. Discoveryland, the Parisian equivalent of Tomorrowland, is authentically Disney and uniquely French, as it draws upon the visions of tomorrow from French novelist Jules Verne. Their Space Mountain is based on his novel, From Earth to the Moon, and has guests shot out of an 18th century cannon on a thrilling space expedition. So, we just need to take that format of a culturally distinct Space Mountain and apply it to Shanghai. There are popular Chinese sci-fi authors, but none with the same recognizability as Jules Verne. But Shanghai's Tomorrowland could thrive if it focused on...
Pause for effect.
With mooncakes, a Lunar New Year, and an entire moon festival, a moon-centric Tomorrowland would have been amazing for Shanghai, and I have to believe it was brought up at some point or another in the land's development, despite nothing specifically proving that true. The aforementioned Moon Festival is a distinctly Chinese celebration that honors Chang'e, the goddess of the moon. Long ago, Chang'e was separated from her lover, Hou Yi, after she drank a potion of immortality and floated away to the moon. While there's more to the myth, and it varies a lot throughout China, it could make for an excellent Space Mountain nonetheless. Guests could go on a journey to the moon to rescue Chang'e and bring her back to Earth. But we all know this Lunar Tomorrowland isn't what got made, despite it fitting Bob Iger's motto perfectly. I also wonder if the motto in action really reflected the motto in words, because for most of the park, it's not all that Chinese, but it is distinct. This makes Tron seem a bit more fitting as it's not a Chinese IP. However, that opens the floodgates to all the sci-fi IPs Disney could theme a new Space Mountain to, including, but not limited to, Lilo and Stitch, Meet the Robinsons, WALL-E, The Rocketeer, Treasure Planet, Atlantis, Flubber, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, oh, and maybe Star Wars, or Avatar, or the man, myth, and legend himself, Buzz Lightyear. There's great arguments to be made for why any of these should have been the theme for a new Space Mountain, but these arguments would all pale in comparison to the reasoning for Tron being the theme. Or at least, they should. Otherwise it's going to be really tricky to prove Light Cycle Run wasn't a mistake. While there are articles hyping up the park and ride before its opening, none do a great job explaining why the decision was being made. The closest anything gets is just restating the motto of authentically Disney and distinctly Chinese, but that's not a reason why Tron specifically was chosen. On Disney Plus, there's a series called Behind the Attraction, a show that delves into the history and development of classic Disney rides. There's an episode on Space Mountain, and within it, a segment on Tron. And this is the closest thing I've found to a reason why Tron was chosen.
In development was a new Tron film.
Oh, phew.
Nice.
And we saw early concept art for it, and it was gorgeous. Everyone saw the excitement of doing something new and unique.
And instead of guests zipping about on rockets.
Well, it's got to be a light cycle.
Of course it does.
The light cycles were such an iconic vehicle, and I felt that those lived up to every other iconic vehicle that we have in all of our parks.
Well, certainly a little faster than some.
And I wanted to bring that to life.
While Disney Imagineer Scott Drake says the light cycle is as iconic as every other vehicle seen in the Disney parks, it's not. The vast majority of 2010's Disney park guests could recognize Splash Mountain's logs or Big Thunder Mountain's train before they could tell you that this was called a light cycle. They might know it's from Tron, but with most people thinking the game is called Tron and not Light Cycle, they wouldn't know that term. In a general sense, the reason given in this episode was that the world of Tron Legacy was visually appealing. But I don't believe the Imagineers really thought that, because the visually appealing look and architecture of Tron Legacy wasn't brought to Shanghai Disneyland. Yes, there's light cycles, yes, it's Tron, but the canopy, the exterior, and all of Tomorrowland looks nothing like Tron. I think the best way to see what I mean is in this Enterprise ad at the end of the ride at Florida. The Tron canopy sits amongst other buildings in the grid, and it stands out like a sore thumb. Light Cycle Run's exterior fundamentally does not look like something out of the Tron franchise, which makes Scott Drake's reason, the only reason I can find, null. But let's try to look at the positives. While not distinctly Chinese, Shanghai's Tomorrowland is distinct. Its architectural style doesn't match Tron, but it is unique to all other Disney parks' versions of Tomorrowland. If Shanghai Disneyland was just an exact copy of another Disney park, there would be no incentive to visit. But with Tron and Tomorrowland being distinct, it gives Shanghai locals and others around the globe a big reason to come to this park. We just have to hope that nothing retroactively takes away this ride's clear positive that you can't ride it anywhere else. Oh yeah, right. Tron being at the Magic Kingdom removes Shanghai's distinctness and brings up an even worse architectural problem. While the ride didn't match with how Tron Legacy looked, it at least matched with the architecture of Shanghai's Tomorrowland. But now, in Disney World, the ride doesn't match with anything. Disney World's Tomorrowland is characterized by its sharp, angular, retro-futuristic design, while Tron Light Cycle Run is characterized by its curved, modern, cyberpunk design. This leads to an unfortunate disconnect where Tron feels more like its own small land than a part of a bigger Tomorrowland. And this only adds to the pre-existing problems in this area of the park. Tomorrowland is cluttered with various non-cohesive IPs, like Lilo and Stitch, Toy Story, and Monsters Inc. As for the non-IP rides that are true to the original Tomorrowland concept, they now look and feel super outdated. With Tron sitting right next to Space Mountain, it makes the classic ride seem super janky and obsolete. Also, the whole point of Tron was that it was a replacement for Space Mountain, not a ride that works in tandem with a Space Mountain. The budget spent on building Tron could have gone towards fixing Tomorrowland, making it feel more cohesive and less stuck in the past. But instead, Tron was built, and the problem has only been exacerbated. But I'm not giving up hope in our search yet. There's still a big place left to look for answers. Probably the most valuable place of all. Tron may be looking like a mistake now, but if we go back to when the hype for the ride was high, when it had just been announced, when reasons were likely given for why it was being brought to the Magic Kingdom, we can justify the Light Cycle Run. Alright, here we are, at the D23 Expo in 2017. Bob Chapek is about to announce the ride, so everybody be quiet, let's listen in.
So I think it's only fitting that it will be soon home to be Shanghai's highest rated attraction. That's right, Tron is coming to guests in Shanghai can't get enough of this thrilling fast-speed ride, and I agree it's a total rush. At Walt Disney World, it will sit in an entirely new space right next to Space Mountain.
Okay, I heard some reasons in there, and they make sense, too. Sure, it might seem weird to have built a ride based around Tron, but if it's popular, what does it matter? Guests can't get enough of it. He said it was a total rush. From the cheers of the crowd alone, it makes sense that this ride is popular. But the ultimate proof of popularity is always the wait time. You know the ride is going to be good when it's got a massive line and is drawing in a big percent of the park's crowds. So let's take a look at Shanghai Disneyland and see just how busy this bad boy is. We're looking at wait times at noon, Shanghai time, and Dumbo is a 50-minute wait. Dang, it's busy. Jetpack's at 30, not too bad. People are probably heading on their way to and from Tron and Tomorrowland. The Carousel has a 20-minute wait, and the Explorer canoes too? Those are almost always walk-ons in California. Rex's Racer at 50, Roaring Rapids at 30, and it does not seem warm enough for that ride to have that long of a wait, but okay. Mine Train and Soarin' are both over an hour? Tron's gonna be like 2 hours at this point. So let's look. No, that's... What I found had to be an irregularity. There's no way Tron was drawing less crowds than essentially everything else in the park. I went online and found archived waits for Tron and the rest of the park to compare. But no matter what, even when Tron does have waits closer to an hour, it's always being beaten out by Soarin' Over the Horizon, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Rex's Racer, Roarin' Rapids, and sometimes even more. Still, this can't be right. I decided to check for ride capacity, or in other words, how quickly people can get onto the ride. Tron's theoretical capacity is 1,680 riders per hour. Soarin's capacity is slightly lower at 1,390, but it always has a significantly higher weight than Tron, so it cancels out. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is nearly identical to Tron's capacity, with a theoretical of 1,650 riders per hour, but Mine Train also has longer waits than Tron, meaning more crowds are at that ride. Roarin' Rapids has a capacity of 1,800 riders per hour, so that completely beats Tron. The only ride with a significantly lower capacity is Rex's Racer, with only 800 riders getting on it in an hour. But in our findings, where Rex's Racer had a 50-minute wait, that would mean about 670 guests were in line. With a 10-minute wait for Tron, only 280 guests would be in line. But maybe Chapek wasn't referring to crowds when describing the success of Tron. Maybe when he said it was the highest rated attraction, he was literally meaning guests rated the attraction highly in surveys. But I don't have access to Disney survey data, so I can't confirm that's what he meant. And what I do have access to doesn't make Tron look like the highest rated ride. While Light Cycle Run does get praise, Shanghai's version of Pirates of the Caribbean, Battle for the Sunken Treasure, is widely regarded to be the best ride in the park. I'm not surprised by that at all, as the attraction is extremely innovative in its ride vehicle movement and combination of practical set pieces and screens. But that leaves Tron in second place, if not lower on most reviewers' lists. Many flaws that people pointed out in Florida's version are seen in reviews of Shanghai's version too. So what is Chapek even saying here? Nothing seems to back up the idea that Tron Light Cycle Run is this massively popular ride demanding to be duplicated. While duplicating rides is easier than creating brand new attractions, there has to be some thought put into what's duplicated and what's not. For example, Remy's Ratatouille adventure being copied from Disneyland Paris and put in Epcot's France Pavilion makes sense, considering the ride is popular in Paris and fits architecturally and thematically in Epcot. But with Tron Light Cycle Run not being as popular as Chapek made it out to be, and the ride not matching with the design of Florida's Tomorrowland, I can't understand how this got approved. Also, I've yet to mention it, but the story for Tron Light Cycle Run doesn't make a lot of sense upon closer inspection. The ride takes guests into the grid to compete in a light cycle duel, but that's a terrible gladiator-style event that programs fear participating in. Tron Legacy even shows that a program would rather kill themselves than play in the games, so why would that be the plot of a ride? While some attractions at various theme parks put guests into seemingly dangerous situations, they usually involve a subversion of expectations or a need for the guests to help. But in Tron, there's no turn of events or call to action, you're just willingly signing yourself up for a battle to the death. Things only get worse when looking deeper into the lore provided for the ride. The attraction canonically takes place after Tron Legacy, the movie wherein the grid and its gladiatorial games were destroyed. Sam Flynn has opened up gateways into the new grid in both Shanghai and Florida. This means Sam rebuilt the grid to include these awful games, even though he experienced how terribly dangerous and scary they are firsthand. The ride also shows characters in the queue that you'll be dueling in the ride, with some, if not most of them, having obviously died in Tron Legacy. This complete lack of care for Tron canon is far more frustrating than the Light Cycle game being called the wrong thing. If we weren't certain Disney didn't care about Tron, this lack of thought put into the story of the ride is proof they don't. Nothing we've seen so far makes Tron look like a good move. If anything, what we found has made it look like an even greater mistake. Something else must make this make sense. The last place to look is the construction and lead up to the recent opening of Tron. Somewhere in that time frame of 2017 to 2023, there better be a good reason why Tron was built. So, let's take a look. While the ride was announced in 2017, it wouldn't be until February of 2018 that construction finally began. Tron was intended to open in spring of 2021, and there were rumors that other parts of Tomorrowland would be slightly rethemed to better fit with its aesthetic. There was one leaked, but potentially fake piece of concept art that shows the Tomorrowland Speedway getting a light cycle refurbishment. But even if this was a real idea, it, as well as any hopes of Tron opening in spring of 2021, disappeared in spring of 2020 with COVID-19. Due to the pandemic, Disney chose to put a pause on all their construction, with many underdeveloped projects being completely scrapped. 2 projects too far underway to be cancelled were Tron Light Cycle Run and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. The Guardians coaster was originally intended to open in the summer of 2021 after Tron opened in the spring. Now with delays, Tron would likely open in fall to perfectly coincide with the beginning of Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary celebration, and Guardians would still open afterwards in early 2022.
Are you sure about that?
However, as fall of 2021 drew closer, it became clear Tron wouldn't be opening. Rumored reasoning for the delay was that for health and safety reasons, Disney didn't want to open a brand new ride while some social distancing policies were still in place. Then, on May 27th, 2022, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind opened at Disney World before Tron. This new ride, with a new ride system that was always expected to open after Tron, beat out the ride that just had copy-paste blueprints from Shanghai. And it's not like it beat out Tron by a little bit, it took almost a year from Guardians opening for Tron to finally follow suit and open as well. As previously mentioned, Tron was supposed to open alongside the beginning of Disney World's 50th anniversary celebration, and yet, its opening was procrastinated for so long that it missed the entire 17-month-long event. These heavy delays are an unfortunate sign that Disney still lacks faith in the Tron franchise. If construction would have been focused on Tron, rather than Guardians and other attractions, it could have still opened in fall of 2021. Maybe it really was COVID restrictions that caused the delay, but with Remy's Ratatouille Adventure opening at the time Tron initially would have, I find that highly unlikely. In my mind, the most likely reason for Tron's delay was the mass success of another newly opened themed launching steel coaster in Orlando, VelociCoaster. Disney didn't have faith that they could outperform the ride, and so they waited for the VelociCoaster hype to die down. In that waiting time, Disney incorporated elements that made VelociCoaster successful, like its locker system. Tron then could have opened in 2022, but Disney sabotaged themselves. Thinking Cosmic Rewind was a better ride than Light Cycle Run, or at the very least knowing Marvel was more popular than Tron, they opted to open Guardians for the 50th celebration. Tron was always intended to open before Guardians. It didn't accidentally fall 17 months behind while Cosmic Rewind stayed relatively on schedule. Disney deliberately delayed Tron because they didn't believe it would be good enough. And again, Disney would have to play the waiting game, letting the 50th celebration end and the Guardians hype die down before they could finally open the Light Cycle Run. The initial hype seen and heard at the 2017 D23 Expo had gradually faded away, with fans feeling like the ride would never come. And now, even though it's finally here, it has a legacy of failure attached to it, and any reason it's not a mistake is missing. 404, the day this ride was opened. April 4th, 404, which is also the system error code that something is missing. Something like a good reason for this ride to be here now. In these 41 years of Tron's existence, from the first film to today, Disney has always seen the franchise as disappointing. Financially, critically, and thrillingly disappointing. So here we are, and the question still remains, was Tron Light Cycle Run a mistake? The easy answer is yes, but I think it's going to take some time before we really know. We'll have to wait and see how the general public reacts to the ride in Florida. Fans of the franchise will finally get the experience they've been waiting for, and the ride will hopefully attract new fans as well. Magic Kingdom's copy of Tron Light Cycle Run could be the very thing that finally gives Tron a bigger fan base, and makes Disney believe that the IP won't always be disappointing. For those of you who are yet to watch Tron or Tron Legacy, I encourage you to check out both with an open mind. Additionally, if you have the opportunity, take a ride on the Light Cycle Run. Form your own opinions, come to your own conclusions, because ultimately, the answer to whether Tron Light Cycle Run was a mistake lies in the subjective opinion of you. But yeah, it was definitely a mistake.